Ambassador Yunji Park stood at the window of the space station, looking at the huge alien ship that had arrived 3 days ago. The ship belonged to the Galactic Coalition, a group of different alien species who worked together. It was shaped like a giant silver leaf and was bigger than any spacecraft humans had ever built. Yunji fixed her dark blue suit and checked her tablet one last time. Today was a big day for Earth. She would be the first human to officially meet with the Coalition's leaders. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept a calm face. That's what good ambassadors did. "Ambassador Park," a voice called from behind her. "The Coalition representatives are ready for you in meeting room A." Yunji turned and nodded to her assistant. "Thank you," she said. She took a deep breath and walked down the bright white hallway of the International Space Station. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet space. The meeting room doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 3 alien beings sat at a large round table. They looked almost human, but their skin had a slight blue tint, and their eyes were larger than normal. They stood up when she entered. "Welcome, Ambassador Park," said the tallest alien in perfect English. "I am First Speaker Hallam of the Coalition. We are very happy to finally meet humans face to face." Yunji bowed slightly and sat down when they gestured to a chair. "The pleasure is ours. First Speaker, Earth has been excited since we first received your message 6 months ago." The meeting went well. They talked about trade, sharing technology, and how Earth might join the Coalition one day. But things got interesting when they started discussing communication systems. "Our quantum networks are quite different from yours," said one of the aliens who had introduced herself as Chief Technology Officer Mila. "We will need to find a way to make them work together." Yunji smiled. "That shouldn't be a problem. We can have our wizard look at it next week when he returns from Seoul." The aliens went very quiet. They looked at each other with confusion in their large eyes. "Wizard," First Speaker Hallam asked carefully, "our records show that humans have moved past believing in magic. Do you still have magic users on Earth?" Yunji almost laughed, but kept her professional face. "Oh no, that's just what we call some of our best engineers. The one I'm talking about is Do-Hyun Lee. He's our top expert in quantum communications. We call him the Wizard of Seoul because he can solve problems that seem impossible." The aliens still looked confused. Chief Technology Officer Mila made some notes on her transparent tablet. "Interesting. This is not in our cultural database. Why do you compare your engineers to ancient magic practitioners?" "Because sometimes," Yunji explained, "what they do seems like magic, even to other engineers." She smiled again. "You'll understand when you meet Do-Hyun next week." The aliens didn't look convinced, but they nodded politely. None of them knew that very soon they would see exactly why humans called their best engineers wizards, and it would change how the Coalition saw humans forever. Do-Hyun Lee walked through his laboratory in Seoul National University, checking the time on his phone. He was supposed to leave for the space station in 3 hours, but his latest experiment needed attention. Blue lights from quantum processors filled the room with a soft glow. "Professor Lee," called a voice from the doorway. Rayon Kim, the Coalition's chief science officer, stood there watching him work. She looked almost human except for her blue-tinted skin and large eyes. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Do-Hyun turned around and smiled. "Not at all. I wasn't expecting the Coalition to send someone to escort me." "I was curious," Rayon said, walking into the lab. "My grandparents were from Earth, from this city actually, before they joined the Coalition. But I've never been here myself." She looked at all the equipment with interest. "Ambassador Park calls you a wizard. I wanted to see why." Do-Hyun laughed softly as he adjusted some settings on his quantum computer. "That's just a nickname. Nothing magical about it." He pressed a few buttons, and complex patterns appeared on the screens around them. Rayon moved closer to look at the screens. Her eyes widened. "These are quantum field patterns, but they're different from anything I've seen before." "That's because we had to find our own way to work with quantum fields," Do-hyun explained. Earth started late compared to the coalition. We couldn't follow the normal path of development, so we tried new things. He touched one of the screens, and the patterns changed. See this? We found out we could make quantum particles dance if we treat them like sound waves instead of light waves. Everyone said it was impossible, but it works. Rayon stared at the patterns. This goes against everything we know about quantum physics. But it works, Do-hyun said again. He checked his watch. Would you like to see something interesting before we leave for the space station? Rayon nodded, still looking confused but curious. Do-hyun walked to a large machine in the corner. It looked like a mess of wires and metal parts. Some pieces seemed to come from everyday electronics. This is what I'm bringing to the station to help connect our systems. It looks primitive, Rayon said carefully, trying not to sound rude. Do-hyun smiled again. Watch this. He turned it on. The machine hummed to life, and suddenly the air around it began to shimmer with beautiful patterns of light. Numbers and data streamed across the nearby screens faster than the eye could follow. Rayon's mouth fell open. That's impossible. You're generating a quantum field strong enough to be visible, using parts that look like they came from a gaming device. Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones. Do-hyun said, we just have to think differently. He started shutting down the machine. Now you know why they call me a wizard. Rayon was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said finally, but I don't think I understand how you do it. Don't worry, Do-hyun said as he packed up his equipment. Understanding comes later. First, we need to get to the space station. I hear they have some interesting problems for me to solve. What Do-hyun didn't say was that he had already guessed why they really needed him. The coalition's ship had problems they couldn't fix. He had seen the signs in their energy readings. But that was a problem for tomorrow. The alarm started 3 hours after Do-hyun arrived at the space station. Red lights flashed in every corridor, while a calm computer voice repeated the same message. Warning. Quantum drive system experiencing unexpected fluctuations. All non-essential personnel please move to designated safe areas. In the coalition ship's main control room, screens showed complicated diagrams turning from green to red. First Speaker Hallam stood with his hands clasped behind his back, trying to look calm as his crew worked. Report, he ordered. Chief Technology Officer Mila looked up from her station, her face worried. The quantum drive is becoming unstable. The AI predicts complete system failure within 48 hours. Can we fix it? Hallam asked. No, Mila said quietly. The problem is in the core systems. We would need to return to coalition space for repairs, but we can't use the quantum drive to get there. If it fails completely, we'll be stuck here. Rayon Kim, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. First speaker, I have a suggestion. She paused, knowing her next words might cause trouble. We should ask the human engineer for help. The room went silent. Even the beeping of alarms seemed to get quieter. That's impossible, one of the other officers said. Their technology is too primitive. They barely understand quantum mechanics compared to us. With respect, Rayon said firmly, I've seen Do-hyun Lee's work. He thinks differently than we do. Maybe that's what we need right now. First Speaker Hallam frowned. Our quantum drive technology is classified. Showing it to non-coalition members is against our laws. At that moment, Ambassador Yeonji Park's voice came through the communication system. First speaker, I don't mean to interrupt, but we've detected the problems with your ship. We would like to offer our help. Hallam looked at his officers. The screens behind them showed more systems turning red. They were running out of time. The drive will fail in 47 hours. The ship's AI announced. All backup systems are now at risk. Hallam closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. Ambassador Park, please send your engineer to Docking Bay 3. We will meet him there. He turned to his crew. Prepare the necessary security measures. And remember, this is now an emergency situation. In the space station's observation room, Do-hyun was already packing his tools. He had seen the energy readings from the coalition ship changing. They were exactly what he had feared, a cascade failure in their quantum systems. "Are you sure you can help them?" Yunji asked him. "Their technology is far more advanced than ours." Do-hyun picked up his bag of equipment, the same mysterious collection of parts that had amazed Rayon in his lab. "Sometimes being more advanced means you can't see simple solutions," he said. "They'd built their technology one way for so long, they can't imagine doing it differently." He smiled as he headed for the door. "But we humans, we're good at imagining impossible things. That's why they call us wizards." Behind him, the coalition ship's lights flickered ominously against the darkness of space. Do-hyun stood in the coalition ship's engine room, looking at the massive quantum drive. The machine filled the entire chamber, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed irregularly. Two other humans stood with him: Jae-hoo Park, his best student, and Soo-min Kang, who specialized in studying unusual particle behavior. "This is amazing," Soo-min said quietly, holding up her tablet to take readings. "Their quantum field technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours. And it's failing," Jae-hoo added, watching the unstable pulses of light. "The energy patterns are breaking down." Several coalition engineers stood nearby, watching the humans with worried expressions. Chief Technology Officer Mila stepped forward with a transparent display showing complex diagrams. "These are the system schematics," she said, though she seemed uncomfortable sharing them. "The quantum field generator is here, in the center. The containment systems are failing, and we cannot stabilize them." Do-hyun studied the diagrams carefully. "Interesting. You're trying to force the quantum fields to stay in perfect alignment. That's why it's breaking down." He turned to his team. "Jae-hoo, what do you see?" Jae-hoo looked at the schematics, then at the drive itself. "They're treating quantum particles like they should follow strict rules. But quantum particles don't like rules." "Exactly." Do-hyun opened his bag and started taking out equipment. Some pieces looked like they came from regular computers. Others were clearly handmade. "We're going to try something different." One of the coalition engineers stepped forward. "You cannot modify our quantum drive with primitive technology. It's too dangerous." Rayon, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Let them try. We have 42 hours until complete system failure. We have no other options." Do-hyun laid out his tools and turned to first speaker Hallam. "I need your permission to try something unusual. It may look strange, but I think I know how to save your ship." Hallam looked at the failing drive, then at the simple tools Do-hyun had brought. The ship shuddered slightly as another system turned red on their displays. Finally, he nodded. "You have permission. But please be careful. There are 10,000 people on this ship." "Jae-hoo, set up our quantum field readers," Do-hyun said. "Soo-min, I need you to calculate how the particles are moving. We're going to do something that coalition engineers might find difficult to watch." "What do you mean?" Mila asked, sounding worried. "We're going to stop trying to control the quantum particles," Do-hyun explained as he worked. "Instead, we're going to let them dance." The coalition engineers looked confused, but they watched as the three humans began to work. None of them knew they were about to witness something that would change their understanding of technology forever. The next 12 hours passed slowly as Do-hyun and his team studied the coalition's quantum drive technology. They worked in shifts, taking careful notes and making detailed plans. The coalition engineers watched them with a mixture of worry and curiosity. "Their entire approach is different from ours," Soo-min said as she looked at her readings. "They try to control every quantum particle perfectly. That's why their technology is so advanced, but also why it's failing now." Do-hyun nodded as he connected his equipment to the ship's systems. "It's like trying to control every drop of water in a river. You can build perfect walls to guide it, but if one wall breaks, everything falls apart." Jae-hoo was typing rapidly on his tablet. "Our approach is more like going with the flow of the river. We don't try to control every drop. We just guide the current in the direction we want it to go. Rayon, who had stayed to watch them work, found herself becoming more and more interested. But your technology is less advanced than ours. How can your methods help with our systems? Sometimes simpler is better, Do-hyun explained. He pointed to the failing quantum drive. Your systems are trying to force quantum particles to behave exactly the same way every time. But quantum particles are naturally random. They don't like being controlled so strictly. He showed them a diagram on his tablet. See these patterns. Your drive is failing because the particles are fighting against the controls. It's like trying to hold back an ocean with a wall. Eventually, the wall will break. Chief Technology Officer Mila joined them, looking at Do-hyun's diagrams. But without strict control, how can we maintain stable quantum fields for faster-than-light travel? Do-hyun smiled. The same way we learned to work with quantum particles on Earth. Instead of forcing them to follow our rules, we learned to work with their natural behavior. He turned to his team. Sumin, show them the particle dance patterns we found. Ji-hoo, bring up the comparison with our quantum communication systems. The screens filled with complex patterns that seemed to flow and change naturally. The coalition engineers gathered around, their eyes wide with surprise. This is impossible, one of them said. The patterns are stable, but they're not being controlled. Not impossible, Do-hyun corrected gently. Just different. We had to find our own way to work with quantum physics because we started later than you. Sometimes, starting fresh lets you see solutions that others might miss. The ship shuddered again, and more warning lights turned red. They had 30 hours left before complete system failure. It's time, Do-hyun said, picking up his tools. We need to start making changes to the drive system. What we're about to do will look very strange to you. But please trust us. First Speaker Hallam, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. You have our trust, Engineer Lee. Show us your human magic. Do-hyun's hands moved quickly as he connected his equipment to the quantum drive. The coalition engineers watched in horror as he attached what looked like modified gaming console parts to their billion-credit technology. Sumin and Ji-hoo worked beside him, each focused on their tasks. This is madness, one of the coalition engineers whispered to Mila. They're going to destroy the entire system. Mila watched anxiously as Do-hyun opened a panel that coalition safety protocols marked as never accessed during operation. He carefully placed one of his devices inside, connecting it to the glowing quantum core. What exactly are you doing? Rayon asked, trying to understand the human's method. We're creating a bridge between your technology and ours, Do-hyun explained as he worked. Your systems are too rigid. We need to give the quantum particles more freedom to move naturally. He pointed to the screens showing the energy patterns. Watch what happens. Ji-hoo pressed several buttons on his tablet. The new device activated, sending pulses of energy into the quantum drive. The coalition engineers gasped as the warning lights started flashing faster. The containment field is failing. Mila shouted. We need to shut it down. Wait, Do-hyun said calmly. Look at the pattern. On the screens, the chaotic energy readings began to change. Instead of fighting against the containment field, the quantum particles started flowing in new patterns. The warning lights slowly stopped flashing. Impossible, one of the coalition scientists said. The particles are stabilizing themselves. Sumin nodded as she adjusted some settings. We're not forcing them into position anymore. We're letting them find their natural balance, like water finding its own level. The room hummed with a new sound as Do-hyun connected the last piece of equipment. The quantum drive's blue glow changed to a steady, peaceful pulse. The warning lights turned green one by one. Drive stability at 60% and rising. The ship's AI announced. 70%, 80%, 90%. The coalition engineers stared at their readings in disbelief. First Speaker Hallam stepped forward, his eyes wide. How did you do this? We used parts from Earth's quantum communication systems, modified gaming processors, and some custom-built tools, Do-hyun explained. Your technology is more advanced than ours, but sometimes you need simple solutions to solve complex problems. But this goes against everything we know about quantum physics, Mila said, still staring at the screens. No, Do-hyun corrected gently. It goes against everything you assumed about quantum physics. The particles always knew how to dance. We just had to stop telling them exactly where to put their feet. The drive hums smoothly now, its energy readings better than they had been before the crisis. The human engineers stepped back from their work, tired but satisfied. Drive stability at 100%, the AI announced. All systems functioning at optimal levels. The room fell silent as the coalition members looked at the three humans with new understanding in their eyes. Now they knew why Earth called its engineers wizards. 3 days after the quantum drive crisis, the coalition's top scientists gathered in the ship's main conference room. They had spent days studying the humans' modifications to their drive system. On the large screen at the front of the room, complex diagrams showed how the quantum particles now moved in their new patterns. First speaker Hallam stood at the head of the conference table, looking at the assembled group. "We have made a significant discovery," he announced. "Our analysis of the human modifications shows something remarkable. They have created an entirely new way of managing quantum fields." Chief Technology Officer Mila stepped forward to present her findings. The humans' method allows quantum particles to follow their natural patterns while still achieving our desired results. It is more efficient than our traditional approach. She paused, then added, "And it is far more stable." Rayon Kim stood up next. As the coalition's chief science officer, she had worked closely with Do-hyun's team to understand their solution. "For centuries, we tried to control quantum physics through strict rules and perfect systems. The human showed us that we were making things too complicated." She touched a control, and the screen showed a comparison between the old and new systems. Their solution uses 30% less energy than our original design. The quantum fields are more stable than we ever achieved before, and most surprisingly, it can repair itself if problems occur. In the back of the room, Do-hyun and his team sat quietly. They had been invited to the presentation but weren't expected to speak. However, first speaker Hallam had other plans. "Engineer Lee," Hallam called, "would you please explain to everyone how you developed this solution?" Do-hyun stood up and walked to the front of the room. "On Earth, we had to find different ways to work with quantum physics because we started later than the coalition. We couldn't follow the same path you did, so we looked for simpler solutions." He showed them his modified equipment. "We used parts from gaming systems because they are good at handling many small, fast changes. We adapted communication technology because it already knows how to work with quantum particles. We didn't try to invent everything from scratch." The room was silent as the coalition scientists considered this. Finally, one of them asked, "But how did you know it would work?" "We didn't," Do-hyun said honestly. "We tried something new because we had to. Sometimes the best solutions come when you have no choice but to be creative." First speaker Hallam nodded. "The coalition has always been proud of its advanced technology. But you have shown us that being advanced doesn't always mean being right. Sometimes, looking at a problem with fresh eyes can reveal solutions we never imagined." He turned to address everyone in the room. "From this day forward, we will establish a new research division. Humans and coalition scientists will work together to explore these new approaches to quantum physics. And yes," he smiled, "we will call it the Wizard Division." 1 year after the quantum drive incident, Ambassador Yeonji Park stood on a platform in Seoul, watching as workers finished building the new Interstellar Engineering Academy. The building looked different from others around it, combining both human and coalition architecture styles. Its walls sparkled with a faint blue glow from the quantum technology inside. "It's beautiful," Rayon Kim said, standing next to her. In the past year, Rayon had become Earth's primary liaison for technological cooperation. "I never imagined we would build something like this when I first came to Earth." "Neither did I," Yeonji replied. "How many students have applied so far?" Over 10,000 from Coalition worlds, and 5,000 from Earth, Rayon said. Everyone wants to learn the human approach to engineering now. They all want to become wizards. Inside the building, Do-hyun was setting up his new office. The walls were covered with diagrams showing both Coalition and Earth technology working together. His old bag of tools sat in a display case. The same tools that had saved the Coalition ship were now considered historical artifacts. Ji-hoo knocked on his door. Professor Lee, the first group of Coalition engineers, is here for the advanced class. Do-hyun looked up from his work. How are they handling our teaching methods? They were surprised at first, Ji-hoo said with a smile. They expected more formal rules and procedures. But after seeing how we solve problems, they're starting to understand. Yesterday, one of them fixed a quantum field generator using parts from a kitchen appliance. Good, Do-hyun said. They're learning that engineering isn't just about having the most advanced technology. It's about finding creative solutions with whatever you have. In orbit above Earth, the Coalition ship that Do-hyun had saved still used his modified drive system. Other ships in the Coalition fleet were being upgraded with the new human-inspired technology. The term Wizard-class drive had become official in Coalition technical documents. First Speaker Hallam stood on his ship's observation deck, watching Earth below. Next to him, Chief Technology Officer Mila was reviewing reports from the Academy. The humans continue to surprise us, Mila said. Their latest improvements to our communication systems are remarkable. They solved problems we've had for centuries, using methods we never considered. That's why we needed them, Hallam replied. We had become too set in our ways, too convinced that advancement only moved in one direction. The humans showed us that sometimes you need to step back to move forward. Down in the Academy's main hall, a new group of students, humans and aliens together, gathered for their first class. Above them, carved into the wall in both Earth and Coalition languages, were the words, "Engineering is the closest thing to magic we have." The universe was changing, and it all started because some humans decided to call their engineers wizards.